We've gone through 15,000 suburbs all across Australia and narrowed it down to our top 25 investment suburbs that you may want to keep your eyes on as a property investor. As context, my team and I have made over 267 phone calls to property investors all across Australia in the last 90 days, spoken to 67 real estate agents from all across the country in some of these markets to get our insights on the ground, and spent over 100 hours on research into every single property market on this very channel, going through all of the data to come up with this list of 25 suburbs for you. Let's go. So to begin with, I'm going to break it down into three separate sections. I'm going to begin with the high demand markets. These are the areas where if you want to make a quick 100 grand, this is where you should look. These are the hottest markets in Australia right now, and rightly so. None of these are surprises because investors are already piling on top of each other in these locations. So this is the list that we have for these high demand areas. We've got Townsville, we've got Gladstone, we've got Rockhampton, we've got Mackay, we've got Bunbury, we've got Mount Gambier in South Australia, and we've got Perth, pretty much everywhere in Perth, and we've got Brisbane. I haven't narrowed Brisbane down because Brisbane is doing pretty well overall, and I've put it in a hot basket for now. So if you want to do really, really well in real estate, these markets are where all the property investors are looking. But there's something to be very, very careful of in buying in these locations. These markets have risen a lot already, particularly Townsville, Bunbury, Mount Gambier, and they've been dominated by investors nowadays. Now, we've done videos into some of these locations specifically and unpacked, hey, is it real or is it investor-led? And we found that North Queensland has really, really strong fundamentals driving this house price growth at the moment. That's likely to last for the next year or two, or even 3 or 4 years. But nonetheless, if there's so many investors flying in there at the moment, you just got to keep in mind that they may also fly out at some point, particularly if it's buyer's agent led and the buyer's agents can send their clients to be like, let's buy here now and then let's sell in 2 or 3 years to a different investor. You might just want to bear in mind that there's some volatility ahead in these smaller regional markets that are doing really, really well at the moment. So these are the hot markets. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've talked about it a lot and you already know it. But here's the list for you of all the hot markets in Australia. Now, let's go through into the warming markets. So let's go through to these medium demand markets. These are the areas where if you start trying to buy now, you'll notice, be like, hey, not everyone's talking about this, but I'm trying to buy and it looks like other people are trying to buy too, because I'm finding that things are selling quickly. The real estate agents aren't even calling me back, and it's weird. There's a lot of activity happening, but it's not in the data just yet, because the data kind of isn't that strong. So these are 3 areas that we've picked out here. So we've got Lyons in Darwin, Wagaman in Darwin, and Palmerston in Darwin. So we've picked 3 Darwin suburbs to begin with. So when I'm going through the mapping the market data here, I don't see any strong positive signs in these locations. In fact, I see negative data. House prices are falling backwards. So you ask the question, Reedham, be like, what? Doesn't make any sense. You're using data and information to make your decision making, but the data's saying that, hey, it kind of prices are falling backwards. What's going on here? So that's a very, very obvious question. But as context, remember what I said at the beginning of this video is a lot of our information is from the data here, but it's also from speaking to people. It's speaking to investors where they're buying. It's picking up the phone. It is actually talking to people on the ground. It's talking to real estate agents. And it's also just taking a quick look. So if you look at my screen right now and just take a look at what is going on in Darwin specifically. So I am going to a suburb in Darwin, one of the suburbs, Lyons, that I picked up, and I'm going on Real Estate Domain. We've done a video on Darwin, so check that out if you want the full context on Darwin itself. And what I can see is Darwin house prices haven't moved at all for 10 years. They're not rising right now. And it takes 2 months for a house to sell. So I should expect to see lots of homes on Real Estate Domain not selling, because that's what the data says right now. But I'm looking at it, and what do I see? Under offer. Under offer. Under offer? What? That's 3 out of 5. Under offer. there is a lot of under offers popping up, under contracts, under offers. I've just looked at like 10 properties or 12 properties and found 6 that are under offer. Something doesn't smell right here. The data's saying that prices are moving backwards, that it takes 2 months to sell a home, that house prices haven't moved at all, but half the homes are under offer. Meanwhile, I do the same search where I live in Sydney. Let's go to Maroubra. And what do I see here? Can I find anything under offer? It's a slowing market, much like Darwin is supposedly in the data at the moment. Oh, I found one, a retirement living home under offer, and everything else as I scroll down is not under offer. Nothing is under offer at the moment, which is kind of what you normally see when you go on Real Estate Domain. You don't see things under offer. The last time I saw something like this was when I did a search on Perth, where you look up things and they start selling very, very quickly. You're going to see a big change in the data in Darwin in the months ahead, because our on the ground, picking up the phone research is telling us that they have come there. There's investors everywhere there. A lot of people are buying there now, and there is more activity. That's why I've put it in a warming market, because if you start looking at this list and you're like, I'm going to start looking at these areas, you're going to find that, wait, hang on, this feels a little bit like a hot market. It feels like there's a lot of people here, a high demand one, even though the data here is a bit ugly. That's why I've got these 3 locations in warming at the moment. The next location I have is a suburb in northern Melbourne, Craigieburn. This is a location that spits out pretty strong data as well. It's got some price growth at the moment. It's got pretty strong rental growth that's occurred as well, and some investors are looking there at the moment. I've also added in another one, Carrum Downs. This is in the eastern section of Melbourne. We've done another video on it with a buyer's agent local who've recommended it as an area that he's looking at for his clients too. That's 5 suburbs to look at if you're looking for areas that are starting to heat up a little bit, or in Darwin's case, a lot potentially. We're still unclear there. If you're buying in Darwin at the moment, or if you're interested in Darwin, I'd love to hear from you. Put your thoughts in the comments below as to what you think is happening in the Darwin market. And if you've got any local experiences to what's happening right now there, love to hear from you. If it could be the next Perth, it's kind of cool to hear it out in the comments below. Be like, what is actually going on? And do our phone calls with buyers agents, real estate agents, and local experts actually play out in the data in real life? The last opportunity I've got here, and this is a very different one, it's in the really high budget range, is I've got a corner medium density homes in Sydney that are above 500 square meters. This is just the opportunity of today in Sydney. I picked corner because they're likely to exhibit the ability to have planning changes applied to them. So you can have multiple frontages, get light in, you can take advantage of any change in planning controls. You can also have wide fronted, anything that looks like a good development site, that they also work, but corner lots often do. Corner in a nice square shape as well. 500 square meters because you need the lot size, you need some actual land to take advantage of zoning changes. And $2 million plus is because the opportunity exists in high value markets where apartments sell for above 750, 800,000. So Sydney's going through a planning change where they're upzoning land, and that upzoning land creates potential value changes. And I've put this in the medium demand market because a lot of people know about this. So there's a lot of people looking for purchases that meet this criteria too. So that's all of the warm markets that we found, the medium demand markets all across Australia. This makes up our list. Now, if I'm a property investor, I'm probably looking at these areas with a little bit of confidence. I would wait a little bit longer for the Darwin markets, for the data to come out, and spend extra time researching these locations if I'm buying there. And factor in, it is a risky market. Prices are down 10 years afterwards. It is transient, so don't just go buying there because this is the suburb list that's popped up. I am showcasing information to you so you can do your own research and decide whether it's the right fit for you and your risk tolerances. For Darwin, I probably wouldn't recommend it as a first-time property investor or even a second-time property investor, but if you're building out a portfolio and you want to take on a little bit of risk and you're okay punting on things a little bit, this could be an investor-led boom that does appear. I'm not so sure it's going to be a real owner-occupier one just yet because the population isn't growing particularly well in Darwin at the moment. Finally, we're going to go into the low-demand markets, the really cool markets. There's so many of these all across Australia. There's, I've said 15,000 suburbs all across Australia. I can pick out 10,000 cool markets if I wanted to. but I've come up with our top list. This is all dominated in Melbourne. Reason why they're all in Melbourne is because Melbourne house prices have not risen very much. Melbourne house prices are going backwards at the moment. And there's a lot of opportunity in Sydney and Melbourne at the moment associated with really good buying conditions. Low demand markets at the moment can present an opportunity for you if you're looking to buy without much competition. Okay, so here are the specific Melbourne suburbs and Sydney, the specific suburbs to look at if you're looking for low demand markets in Melbourne where the data is pretty strong. So we've got Naree Warren, I believe this is out east. We have Deer Park, West Footscray and Sunshine. This is all around the Sunshine area of Melbourne. So you're looking up northwest. We also have Cranbourne on our list here as well, and Melton West, which is out west near in the Sunshine Corridor as well. So you have a lot of suburbs here that pop up on a list of areas that you may want to pay a little bit of attention to. So how we got these suburbs is we did a data deep dive on HTAG and other data sources. We spoke to a few people in Melbourne. We spoke to buyers agents in Melbourne, and we called a bunch of real estate agents as well to get a little bit of a sense of what the buyers agents told us as potential areas. And then we did a little bit of homework, and we come up with this list as a potential list of Melbourne suburbs to look at. Melton West is something to look at as well if you're looking for a lower price point. It is a bit cheaper there. So with $500,000, you can actually buy a detached home in those locations as well. So that's the full list of the cooler suburbs in Melbourne to look at if you're looking to invest in property in Melbourne at the moment. So there's pretty much the full summary of different type of markets. We've outlined 25 suburbs or opportunities or areas to look at here. And I've got one more, which is a corner R2 property that's above 500 square meters and ideally costs around the $1.5 to $2 million range in Sydney. These sites are going to be turning into terrace sites if they're well located near a railway station, near public transport, near shopping centres. They're going to do fairly well. So that is a potential opportunity for change as well. That's kind of why I've listed it as a potential thing to look at. And I put it in cool because there's so many of them and Sydney is kind of on the decline at the moment. There's a little bit of an opportunity coming up to buy this sort of zoning change in a time where not many people are looking. So that's why it's in the cool market. While the R3 stuff, there's a lot of people out there looking for sites like this with all the zoning changes there. A lot of big dollar people looking at properties that exhibit this criteria. So that it makes it a little bit warmer than the cool market that is the R2 sites. Now, if you found this list somewhat useful, I need your help right now. I am going to go through the data behind these suburbs and go through a deep dive into some of these locations. But I need your help in working out, where do you want me to look? Where do you want me to pay attention to? There's 25 plus suburbs here. That will take me forever to do and go through, do video after video on each of them. But if you can tell me which one you want to see in full detail, then I will go behind the scenes, run through the full data set behind it and produce its own video so you can get a very up close look at specific suburbs. Point of this video is to help you start your suburb selection research without paying thousands of dollars to other people or giving all your power away to buyers agents. Buyers agents are already buying properties in all of these suburbs, and in particular the hot market areas are where all the buyers agents are at. If you just want to know where to buy, this is somewhat of a starting point list that I've come up with as to where I would be buying right now if I was purchasing an investment property. Now, finally, I'm going to go through areas to avoid as well. Just make your research a little bit quicker as well. Why have I avoided some locations? So I've got Adelaide here. I've got that as at risk. It's late in its cycle, it's driven by investors, its economy is slowing and its employment growth is slowing. I think all of Adelaide is at risk and susceptible to investors being a little bit flighty, especially with affordability being so badly. So I just rule out all of Adelaide. It could be put in the hot basket, and yes, there are some buyers agents still buying there, but I'm saying that that's too risky. Don't be buying there. Consider selling if you already own there. I've got Sydney, broadly Sydney as a whole. Prices are set to fall in 2025, but I'm not so sure I can see much headwinds for prices to rise thereafter. I can see prices falling and then recovering a little bit, so I'm not too sure why you'd be investing, just throwing a dart at Sydney at the moment as an investment spot. I'd be buying very specific landed opportunities that take advantage of zoning changes, that I've mentioned in the cool and warm markets, but I wouldn't just be buying any old property in Sydney at the moment. Hobart, yeah, don't be buying there. I think that one's pretty simple. And Canberra, don't be buying there as an investment property. These are areas to avoid. It helps you avoid most of them. There's obviously regions everywhere as well. These are the hotspot regions based on the data and where everyone else is looking and where it makes sense to. But those are the areas to avoid too. So there's the full video. If you found it interesting, hit that subscribe button and follow me on my journey to keep producing educational content that helps you make better financial decisions, which is really the goal of this channel, from me to pass on all the information that I get from all of the calls, from all of the property investors, from being the hub point, the finance broker, the hub point for investors everywhere that sees buyers, agents, contracts, sees the market, and pass that information to you so you can make better financial decisions that help you grow a better financial future for yourself.